A pocket controller, dog. A pocket controller. Forfeit, my nigga. He forfeits. He forfeits. He knows he got Mango gave this nigga the corporation.
Super Smash Bros. Is a series that will always have a special place in my heart. Without this series, I honestly don't think I'd love and appreciate video games as much as I do. As a kid, playing Brawl for the first time was a truly magical experience, and from there, I was hooked. And since then, I've kept up with the series up until today. I ended up getting a Wii U for Smash 4, and I get Ultimate day one and put over 2,000 hours into the game over the past 4.5 years. Yeah, I'm a Smash fan, how could you tell? I followed Ultimate throughout its entire lifespan, and as more characters would get revealed, there was always this nagging thought in the back of my head that this could very well be the last Smash game. Just by the way they were marketing this game, I could tell that something was different, and when Sora was finally added to the game as the last character, it made me realize that I don't want to see another Smash game for a long time. Like a very long time. And look, I know that sounds bad, but if you stick with me, I think you'll start to understand where I'm coming from. But before that, we gotta go back to the late 90s to see where the series first started. Alright, let's set the stage real quick. It's 1996. A 26-year-old Masahiro Sakurai just finished development on Kirby Superstar and was looking into making 3D games since it was basically the Wild West at the time. He would end up making 2 prototypes that he would propose to Nintendo. A game starring a robot focused on stealth and exploration, and a 4-player free-for-all fighting game with no health bars titled Dragon King: The Fighting Game. The robot game would never come to fruition, but the fighting game would become what we know today as Smash. But obviously, it looks a little different. Where the fuck is Mario? The game had no recognizable characters at all. We've got red guy, green guy, white guy, and blue guy. Truly a roster that will be known for generations to come. Now, obviously Sakurai was supposed to have Nintendo characters in the game instead, which was definitely the right move in the end. While it would take some convincing, the idea really took off, and the crossover aspect would become the defining trait of the series moving forward. The game would end up becoming the 5th best-selling game on the N64, and with that kind of clout, sequels are bound to be made. And with each subsequent game, more content would get added, but most importantly, the roster would just keep growing and growing and growing. Melee would effectively double the roster of Smash 64, Brawl would introduce third-party characters, and Smash 4 would add DLC characters to the mix, opening the floodgates for pretty much any character to join. So what does Smash Ultimate do? Well... Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is a special game. It took the 2-decade-long history of the series, as well as some of the most prominent and iconic video game characters ever, and somehow fit it into one cartridge. This game is important because it represents the peak of the series for me. Nintendo not only managed to put every character that has ever set foot onto the battlefield into this game, but they also added 23 new characters to the game, some of which were characters that have been highly requested for years. Oh my god. I'll never say anything bad about this company again. This game feels like what Sakurai's always been leading up to since 1999. Like I said before, the characters are the bread and butter of this series. So much that Ultimate would just say, fuck it, we're getting everyone in this bitch. And it worked! It absolutely worked. Snake! Oh my fucking god! Anyone who's grown up with Smash can tell you that this is a dream come true. Having every single character in the game is something no one saw coming, but it was a very pleasant surprise. While it is amazing, whenever I decide to play the game today, I look at the roster and think to myself, damn, where do we go from here? This game feels like something that can only happen once, and that's perfectly fine. If a new Smash game came out a few years from now and it was the same roster with even more characters, I personally wouldn't really like that. Reason being is that this game just feels so final. It's the end of an era. I mean, why else would everyone is here be all over the marketing for this game? They even got Mickey Mouse up here. I don't know how they did that, but I salute them anyway, because I know that couldn't have been easy. Ultimate reminds me of when I first saw Avengers Endgame, and that when it ended and the credits rolled, I was like, wow, what a great way to end the series. But just like the MCU, they're definitely going to keep making more because that shit makes way too much money for them to stop.
What are you, fucking stupid?
In my time reflecting upon the series' future, I come up with 3 potential outcomes for the direction of Smash moving forward. We've got a bad ending, a neutral ending, and a good ending. And I think it's appropriate we start with the bad ending first. So without further ado, the series ends right here. Yeah, there's like a 2% chance this actually happening. Anyways, moving on. Okay, so here's where things get interesting. In this timeline, Ultimate takes notes from Mario Kart 8 and gets the deluxe treatment on the next Nintendo console. Every character from the base roster and the DLC are in the game at no additional cost. Just like Mario Kart 8 though, the game will eventually get DLC to further expand the roster. While I said a little bit ago that I really don't want this to happen, I can't deny that it's not a bad plan. Considering how Mario Kart's been doing, it would exponentially increase the game's lifespan for both casual and competitive players, and probably bring in some new people as well. This game obviously had a lot of time and effort placed into it, so I wouldn't blame the devs for just porting the game to the next console and supporting with new characters for a few more years. It would also stir up discussion around the game again about what new characters are going to appear, so the Ultimate Hype Train will be back in business. A win-win for both the developers and the consumers. Again, in my opinion, it's not ideal, but I could definitely see this getting announced. And people would 100% buy it too. Are you fucking kidding me? I mean, I know I would. Because at the end of the day, what we all have in common is that we're all shills for Smash Brothers. But we deserve better. Which is why I think this next idea I came up with is the best case scenario. So without further ado, let's talk about the good ending. Alright, so hear me out. We get a completely new Smash game, but there's a twist. We're gonna start from scratch. I'm saying right now, 60% of the roster is getting cut. A good chunk of the third parties are out, most of the DLC characters are gone, same most of the Fire Emblem characters in Pokemon, and pretty much all the clones in this game are out. It's essentially a soft reboot for the series. This is the ideal direction for the series to take. Why? Because after Ultimate, I believe the Smash needs a reset. This game already has one of the largest rosters in any fighting game. If we make it any bigger, we're gonna be entering Mugen territory, which is pretty fucking overwhelming. It'd be a nice change of pace if the roster was cut, since it's been doing nothing but expanding since 1999. The roster shrinking would also allow the developers to finally give older characters new movesets, because Lord knows they need it the most. A lot of the characters from 64 to Brawl have had the same moveset since their debut, and there's one big issue with this that I want to highlight. And it's that most of the time, they really don't represent the characters as well as they should. You want a good example? Just look at Sonic. He got in the Brawl and everyone lost their shit, but his moveset is so fucking boring. And this is coming from someone who's played Sonic in every game he's been in. Why are 6 of his moves him turning into a ball? Can he please do anything else? It's not like other characters from the same game, mind you, haven't gotten tweaks to their moveset, so what's the deal? This is an issue because Sonic's had a ton of games come out between 2008 and 2018 that show that his moveset isn't just ball. So it's really not the best depiction of the character and what he can do. Maybe it was in 2001, but not so much today. Sonic's probably the most egregious example I can think of off the top of my head, but there's a few more. Ganondorf and Captain Falcon are basically the same character, except one is good and the other is Ganondorf. I mean, I guess he's got that big ass sword now. Oh yeah! Even Mario, Mr. Video Game himself, in the face of all these games, is in desperate need of an update to his moveset. The newest move he has in his arsenal is Flood, which was added in Brawl, but even that's outdated now because the game Flood comes from Super Mario Sunshine is a 21-year-old game.
Jesus Christ.
I know Mario is as simple as you can get in terms of video game characters, but he definitely has some moves from his newer games that the developers can pull from to make a more interesting moveset. Because as it stands, he's been the same character since 2008. With the new characters introduced in Smash 4 and Ultimate, the characters are a lot more unique and faithful to the games they come from. A soft reboot would allow the older characters to have movesets that actually represent who they are now instead of who they were 15 years ago. It would signify that this is a new era of Smash Brothers, one where the old characters feel new and brand new characters join the fight. That's another reason why I want to reboot. Brand new characters. Since most of the old roster is going to be gone for this new game, this makes room for a lot of new characters to join the fight, both from existing and new franchises that haven't been represented yet. The possibilities are endless with this one. I get that Sora was the most requested Smash character of all time. I personally was praying that he got into the game for the longest time. But that doesn't mean that there aren't any more characters that'd be hyped to see in this game. You can't tell me that seeing characters like Crash Bandicoot, Master Chief, and Rayman in Smash wouldn't have people going apeshit, because it 100% would. Nintendo already showed that they're willing to throw in a ton of other franchises in from left field. Considering how many Mii costumes of other popular characters are in the game, them expanding their reach even further out wouldn't be completely out of the question. Keep dreaming, Geno fans. One day it'll happen, I promise. Another big bonus a Smash reboot would bring is the prospect of new single-player content. There are 2 modes that I'm desperate to see in the next game, and that's All-Star mode making a return, and an all-new story mode more akin to the Subspace Emissary. I don't know about anyone else, but All-Star mode used to be my favorite side mode in Smash, and it's nowhere to be seen in Ultimate, which makes me so sad. When I used to play Brawl and Smash 4 religiously, I would run through All-Star mode over and over and over again. The closest equivalents we have are Smashdown, which I think is a ton of fun, and All-Star Smash, which is a poor man's imitation of the real thing. Don't let them fool you. Remember what they took from us. Bring it back, please, I beg, because All-Star mode really hit different back in the day. Especially that rest area music, god damn! A new story mode would be great to see too. World of Light was fine, but it's something I don't think of that much because it didn't leave that much of an impact on me. I beat it once when I first got the game and I proceeded to never touch it again after that. South Space, however, well, it's pretty hard to forget South Space. When I was a kid, fighting through all these different levels and watching the cutscenes where all these characters I know are interacting with each other was amazing, and I yearned for that feeling again. World of Light had cutscenes too, and to its credit, they looked great, but there weren't that many of them, so no one really gave a shit outside the first one because, well, everyone dies. A new world to explore with a ton of cutscenes is really all I want. Is that so much to ask for in 2023? I'm literally begging, do not give me this shit ever again, please. Those are my two biggest wishes in terms of content. Everything else, as long as they're fun, I couldn't really care what they add. There are modes that are bound to return like Classic Mode and Home Run Contest, and I'll be more than happy to play them, but aside from that, this is the Smash game I want in the future. While I said that Ultimate is the peak of the series, and currently it is, a reboot would breathe new life into the series. Again, I love Ultimate, but it's a game that I don't want to see repeated if it doesn't have to be, because it'll lessen the impact the game had for millions of fans. But who knows, it's probably going to be a few more years until we get a new game, so we'll just have to wait and see. No matter what though, don't make Shadow win the Shiz Trophy for the 4th time. I mean, what the fuck, guys?